And I'm smarter than you.
Right.
Probably.
So at this point, Tag had the castle, and Thaddeus, because he was a priest, like, he's trying to get control of the castle, and he has the backing of the local Gaelic populace, basically. You know?
Gotcha.
However, Tag was a psychopath.
Okay.
And he used murder and arson to extend the clan's borders. So, like, he wants to have more land, so he's just going to murder and burn everything in his wake so he can have it.
Right.
He doesn't care if it's
ruined.
shitty. It's his. He doesn't give a crap.
Sounds like something happening right now.
He actually made treaties with the Duke of Ormond, and those were the English, and his brother has the backing of the other guys that are fighting. And he grew tired of his brother's opposition. So he's like, well, I'm gonna side with the guys against him.
Right.
And then
I'll win.
Right. So what he did was he invited his brother Thaddeus to use the chapel in the castle as his own personal sanctuary. And this chapel is located at the top of the central tower of the castle. Because it was like a stronghold, basically. It was like the main castle was a small, like, house with a turret. And the chapel's located at the top.
Okay.
And Tag, he lets his brother is in the chapel, thinks he's safe because he's in the church,
right?
You know, so basically Tag sneaks in at one point, and waited till his brother was kneeling at the altar praying, and he walked up to him and slit his throat.
No.
Yes. So
that's just bad.
So this chapel after this was known as the Bloody Chapel, and it has other reasons why too, because lots of terrible things happen in this chapel. Because obviously that Tag doesn't give a shit.
No.
He's like, I want it. I want him dead. I don't care
what happens.
So this is like seen as horribly unsanctimonious. This is definitely, you're on your way to hell now. There's no turning back now,
Tag.
But he didn't give. I don't think he cared. He was a psychopath. So the McMahons, they sometimes refer to as Omans, but McMahon is easier to say than Oman. So I'm referring them as the McMahons.
Like Ed McMahon.
Exactly. Omahan. But we'll say McMahon.
Okay.
And they supported Thaddeus. They were fighting with Tag now because they didn't like how he treated his brother.
Right.
Killed him in the chapel.
Yeah, well.
It's terrible. But as a show of peace, Tag invited them to a grand banquet at the castle.
No, go.
So there was about 40 of this clan there at his castle.
I feel a red wedding coming on.
Yes. Where it's worse. It
couldn't be worse.
It is. Wait. Where they were fed drugged food and wine, and then after they were all like out of it,
right,
they were dragged to the chapel where Tag had built an oubliette. And I read this, I'm like, this is the perfect thing, because all I can hear is an oubliette. It's a place to put people to forget about them, as Hoggle would say from Leonard. An oubliette, yes. And this was basically a long, steep shaft that dropped from the chapel at the top down to the basement, basically where you'd say the dungeon of the castle was. And basically, he took all these drugged clans and he threw them down this oubliette, right, into the basement.
Like Hoggle and Sarah.
And then he bricked up the thing. So he just basically threw them down there, bricked it up, and let them die. But
oh yeah, I guess it's a little worse.
Not only did he do this, before he did this, did I mention that this asshole lined the shaft with metal spikes? So yes. So they're all drugged.
And stabbed up. And got thrown down a metal
head first.
Oh my god.
So hopefully they were head first and they died on impact, but they're just tossing them into this.
Oh god. That's awful.
And they're getting impaled on spikes. And the ones that lived just starved to death at the bottom.
See, the Goblin King wasn't so bad.
He wasn't.
He just knocked them in there and they got out.
They did, but they would have starved to death if he had.
Yeah, but they got out. Spoiler alert.
This and thing is, this is like, you think, oh, this is just stories, right? No, this is not. This actually did happen, because in the 1920s, this shaft, they unsealed it, they found it, and then they found
skeletal remains.
Yeah, they excavated 4 cartloads of human remains out of this shaft and the bottom of the shaft. So like, he really did that.
What a horrible, horrible person.
Yes.
Now, listen, friends, if
Don't go to the basement. It smells bad down there, like dead things, because there's dead things down there.
Yeah, but if a man invites his brother into the home and slices his throat at the altar, and then he later on invites you to dinner, don't go.
No.
Don't take that invitation. If he will slice his brother's throat, you probably shouldn't go over to his house for dinner.
They probably thought, like, well, there's 40 of us. If he tries anything, we'll just fight back. Well, he drugged you.
Yeah.
He put stuff in your food.
There's no fighting back then.
Nope. And then he just, like, waited till you were, like, passed out, and then he threw you down a shaft and forgot about you.
Idiot. I love saying that.
The original Goblin King.
Yeah, but I bet he isn't David Bowie.
No. Nobody is David Bowie. So he then sees the McMahon lands for himself, which really alarmed the English. Even though they were technically on his side, they're like, wait a minute, this dude is taking everybody's land.
And he's going to come after us next.
Right.
He's getting too much power.
Yeah, so the English sent an army to overtake him, but they failed.
Losers.
And, like, they fought and they lost, and they were just kind of scattered and hiding in the different villages around the area. Well, Taig ended up burning down several of these towns that were sheltering the English, and any of the troops that they had caught as prisoners, he took many of them. Like, and if the people were sheltering the English, he took them too, because like they're his enemy. He burned them down. Anybody that was lived, he brought back to the castle, and then he put them in the underground dungeons at Lep Castle, which are miles long. They're like miles worth of these dungeons underneath this castle. And then he sealed the doors and just let them starve to death, because that's his thing. He's
got
like,
an MO.
I'm not gonna waste energy on you. I'm just gonna seal you up
into a tomb
and forget about you.
Yeah,
he's the originator of the oubliette.
Oubliette.
These cells are still sealed to this day, but the passages, you can't get to them. They're impassable. Like, they've been collapses. The castle's mostly a ruin. But we'll get to that in a minute. Okay. In 1552, Taig made peace with the English, and they knighted him. Wasn't that nice of them?
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah, so he becomes a knight.
Sir Taig. Sir Taig.
Which made many of his family, which would be his brothers and his cousins, very angry.
Well, yeah, he killed their other brother.
Right. And his old enemy, which was his cousin, Calvé O'Carroll, he ended up attacking him and killing him in 1553. Oh. So he got his
comeuppance.
In 1688, the O'Carrolls were given 60 acres of land in the New World, which is currently Maryland area, and then they moved and their lands reverted back to the English. So, like, I wonder if they realized in 1688 that 60 acres of land in the U.S. was not a gift.
Right.
They probably all died.
Yeah.
If any of them lived, it's probably a miracle. One of the next owners of the castle, his name was Jonathan Darby, and he was referred to as the Wild Captain. He was a royalist, and he became the new lord of the castle. It didn't tell me a date when this happened. He ended up marrying an O'Carroll princess, is what they would call. So, like, one of the O'Carroll's girls. He married her. And he was known to be an abuser. Like, he wasn't a very nice husband. He kind of smacked her around a lot.
I think a lot of them did.
Yes. He became famous for his wild orgy parties that he would hold at the castle. He was said to have been very paranoid, and he hid his gold and jewels in a secret chamber within the castle. He had two of his loyal servants helped him, and they basically they made a secret chamber and bricked it up, and then he killed his servants and bricked them up in the wall.
Jesus,
a different wall in the castle.
Another bricked up people.
Yeah, because he didn't want them to know where the treasure was, because he was afraid they were going to steal it, even though they found his two most loyal servants, and then he ended up killing them. Like, why would you do that? Why don't you find two that aren't loyal and then kill them? Anyway, he was a bit wacko. He eventually, within a few years of this happening, he got arrested on charges of treason and was imprisoned. And he was released many years later, and at this point he was gone, totally mad, because he already had, like, paranoid tendencies before this, and he forgot where this chamber was with all of his treasure. And the location of the treasure has never been found, but they did discover 2 upright skeletons bricked into the wall of the castle.
So we know that it happened.
Because, yes.
Because he bricked them into the wall so no one else would know.
Somebody else could have found the treasure and just kept it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
true.
If I worked there and found a treasure in the wall, I would just take it and run away. This is mine.
Whistling and slowly backing away.
The Darby family, they added a lot of the extensions that were put onto the castle. They added wings, and onto the original buildings they built a new chapel because nobody wanted to go into the chapel that was up in the top of the turret.
Yeah, that's kind of cursed.
Yeah, nobody wanted to go up there because they said it felt evil.
Right. Well,
so, like, we don't like it in there. There's a bad feeling.
Some
terrible things happen. Bad juju. Yes. So they built a new chapel. And the people who were building on the castle said they could hear anguished screams coming from below.
Ugh.
And then they could hear children crying during the night.
Because they're in the oubliette.
And they said one of the bedrooms has a terrifying, threatening, tall female figure in a red gown with fire burning around her head. They refer to her as the Red Woman, and they think that she's the princess. The
Red Woman.
Yes.
Game of Thrones.
I know.
Sorry.
We were getting Labyrinth and Game of Thrones and all that good stuff. Especially with the Red Wedding and the Bloody Chapel.
Yeah.
Yeah. They see a ghostly monk. He's seen wandering around in the corridors. There's also, and they've also seen an old man dressed in knee breeches with buckled shoes and a green cut coat. And he's seen with an elderly woman, which they didn't describe, which I thought was kind of rude.
Yeah.
They said they had old-fashioned dress. She was just wearing an old dress. And, like, people can hear footsteps a lot. Like, when there's nobody there.
Oh, yeah.
You hear footsteps walking around. It sounds creepy. They've seen a cloaked figure is seen on the grounds and near the walls, like, outside the castle. And that's, like, a ghostly figure. And a light can sometimes be seen in the windows of the Bloody Chapel from across the valley.
Ooh.
And it's like, sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. But, like,
just
they'll look and there'll just be this weird light in the window.
Ooh, like an orb.
Yeah. In the 1920s, the IRA burned the castle down.
Oh.
And the central tower house, which is in the original castle, sustained some damage, but they remained mostly intact.
Oh, that's cool.
But all the new additions were all gone.
Burned.
Yep. A current resident of the Gate Lodge has seen more than once, and he usually sees it at night, 2 little girls playing on the lawn in front of the castle.
Oh.
And he says it usually happens on a clear night. You'll see him outside running around and playing. And I'm like, that's kind of adorable and sad.
That's sad.
Yeah. It turns out they did some research, and they said that both of these girls died in the 1800s. One was known to have fallen from the tower, and the other one had a bad leg. But they died really close to each other, and they are seen playing outside.
Oh, they're pals for eternity. If we died like that, we would be playing outside in front of the house.
We totally would. Playing Goonies. Yeah. That's what we did. Or Get Along
Gang.
That rock outside my house. Another thing that people have seen and felt, it's mostly something that people felt, and they refer to it as the thing.
Ooh.
And they said they think that it's an elemental spirit that had never been alive. It's just some kind of a evil force.
Ooh.
And they said that it haunts the spiral staircase that leads to the Bloody Chapel.
That's why no one can go up there.
They're like, it's waiting to push you down the steps, basically. And they said it's primeval and malignant and smells of rotting flesh. So, like, you just feel this horrible, overwhelming sense of dread and this awful rotting smell. And they said that there have been 2 people who think they've seen it. And one was a Miss Darby, one of the Darby girls. And she described it as a hideous creature, 4 foot high, human shaped, composed of iron gray wool with dark glittering eyes and holes in its skull. And it left a sickening smell as it disappeared.
Ew.
She said she felt like it was going to attack her, and she kind of ran away from it, and then it disappeared. Like, she ran down. She was going up the spiral staircase.
Turned herself right back around.
Yes. And then another guest of the castle described it as a man-sized figure with a sheep's skull on its head, covered in shaggy black fur, It had 2 big paw-like hands and a terrible reek.
Oh, smell part is